guys! Check out our Nantucket Sound build
by Fliskits.
We painted it to look like the Bodie Island Lighthouse and the Outer Banks.
The Bodie Island's height is 156 feet. That's pretty high.
That is pretty tall.
And then it has 214 steps. Could you imagine having to carry up fuel for the light at 214 steps? And it was built in 1872. That's a long time ago.
And that's not even the tallest lighthouse in the Outer Banks.
Grab your popcorn and enjoy the build.
The aeroshell for this rocket is mostly paper, so we're going to go ahead and cut out all the paper components from the templates here. We'll go ahead and cut the lamp dowel to hold the ball that would be the lamp of the lighthouse and the roof supports out. Then we're going to use a spent motor casing to mark the depth for the thrust ring. Then we'll go ahead and put a piece of tape on that so that it can stop when it's at the right depth. Then I'll apply some glue to the inside of the tube. With a little help here, we'll put that thrust ring down into the engine tube, using, of course, that spent motor here to seat it. Now that that motor block's installed, we're going to mark for where we need to install the retainer clip. We'll go ahead and make a little cut there. And then put some tape to apply tension to the motor clip. We'll add some glue and some centering rings to it to finish it off. We did notch that aft centering ring so that there's still a little bit of motion possible in that motor clip. And then once we get all that installed, we're going to come back and apply some fillets of glue to make sure those are nice and secure. The next step, we're going to tie the shock cord around the motor tube here. So we give it a little notch to the outside of the centering ring just to make sure that there's enough play for that to slide into the mount. And put a little dab of glue there to make sure those knots stay in place. We use this piece of cardboard as the floor for the top part of the lighthouse. That's also the part that's going to act as the nose cone for the rockets. We're going to add some glue and glue the balsa wood shoulder on there. We're going to come back and we're going to mark that support stay that would hold the actual light bulb in this lighthouse. And then we're going to go ahead and put a little taper on that so that we can seat it pretty well. Once that's done, we're going to apply some glue and we're going to stick it into the ball that's the light there. Since that's going to be in the middle of the room on the top of the lighthouse, it's going to be hard to paint. So off camera here, we're going to go ahead and take that out and apply some gold spray paint to it. Next, we're going to apply some masking tape here. Hopefully that'll help us level out and contain some of the glue. Then we'll go around and we'll add glue to each of these wells and add the support stays for the roof of the lighthouse. Tape's going to help us not overthrow the depth too much. Clean that up a little bit, and we're going to put the roof piece on. And then we're going to try and shift everything while it's still a little wet and make sure that we're relatively plumb here. After that, we're going to feed the Kevlar shock cord through the inner body tube, and then we're going to add some glue and fix that motor mount in place. We're going to go back and add a fillet of glue to the bottom there. And just make sure there's no glue dripping down the tube and causing trouble there. Now what we need to do is install the bottom of the rocket, the wide base, onto the body tube, and then we'll put the top of the tapered portion of the rocket that's going to mate with that foreplate that we just made for the nose cone. We're going to go back and add fillets of glue, of course, to this to make sure those are nice and secure. After that, we're going to cut out the internal supports out of balsa wood using the templates. It is probably important to lay out these pieces ahead of time. There wasn't a whole lot of slack in the balsa wood the way I chose to cut them here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that they're nice and plumb, and using that guide, make sure they will line up with the fins on the outside. We're going to install these internal support structures on the inside. And then, of course, follow it up with fillets of glue. The longer support there is for the internal rod launch lug. So we're going to apply some glue and then add that here. Then what we've got to do is add the tapering section to the outside of that so that it lines up with the aeroshell that'll be that paper we cut out of the template earlier. And of course that means it's time for more fillets of glue. So we'll go back around and apply some more glue and give that a while to cure. The entire what would be the handrail section for the upper lighthouse part is paper here, so we're going to go ahead and cut that out. We do want to slowly add the bend to this so we don't get creases. And then after we do that, we're going to go in and cut out these middle parts. That way it's relatively uniform and not prone to kinking on those joints. We're going to cut the nose cone out. We're going to do the same procedure here with the nose cone, slowly bend it into shape, then go back and apply glue. There's a little bit of a gap there, so I apply extra glue to sort of fill that in. The paper shell that is the outer wall of the Lighthouse or the aero shell is a little more forgiving here, so we just apply glue to the tab and bend that over and glue it. Then we'll come back and we'll clean up the masking tape from earlier, and we're going to try and glue this handrail on. This was a little bit tricky, so patience is definitely encouraged here. Extra care to make sure that it lines up with the deck plate, makes it nice and smooth on the top, and will help give a nice finished look there. The most accessible surface is of course the bottom here, so we're going to use that to go back and apply extra glue to. Then we're going to move on to the parachute. So it came with one set, and I added another set on the other side of these reinforcement rings. Then we'll put a small slit so we can feed through the suspension lines and tie them in place. Then we're going to stretch them out and make sure that they're relatively equal on each of the legs of the parachute there. Now we're going to apply some ballast to the front of the rocket. That's going to move the center of gravity forward and make this a more stable rocket. Even though I suspect, given the wide base, we probably have some base effect drag also. After that, we're going to cut the actual fins out of the balsa wood. Go ahead and put a bevel on the leading edges of those and the bottom edge. Then, since they are kind of pointy, I wanted to reinforce them with some cyanoacrylate glue here. So we go ahead and apply that and let it dry. Then we sand it smooth. Now to help the finish and apply a little more strength over the whole fin, we do go back and apply some sanding sealer here to both sides of those. And then we'll come back once it's dry and sand it smooth again. We will repeat that process here with my helper. So we're going to apply another coat. And then once that coat's dry, we'll go back and sand it smooth again as well. This should hopefully add some strength, but also keep those little like thumbnail prints and dings and that sort of stuff from accumulating too rapidly and help with the overall finish. Now, we attempted to dry fit the air shell. We see that some of the spots have hills and valleys that we need to smooth out to make sure that it hits that paper nice and smooth. So we come back and we shave those down just to make sure that they fit nice and flush to the paper. It's a somewhat odd construction here, not being through wall on the outside of the Lighthouse. So the fins do just glue to the outside of the paper. So we want to make sure that we have a relatively good seat on both sides of that paper there. So we add the paper, glue it in, go back around, of course, and add fillets of glue. And then once that's set, we'll come back around with a knife and we'll cut it flush. Now when we dry fit the nose cone to the rocket here, we see that it's a little too snug, so we're going to go back and we're going to sand that shoulder down and then put just a little bit of a bevel on the bottom of it. Now we'll go around and glue each fin in place and apply fillets of glue as we go. And then rotate it around, apply more fillets of glue, and then glue in seal in that launch lug there. Next, we're going to feed the shock cord through and go ahead and tie the shock cord to the elastic component of the recovery system. I'm a big fan of having a dynamic component to your recovery system. It really helps soften those loads. We're going to add some glue and put in the eye bolt to the nose, and then tie the elastic cord to the nose of the rocket. And then now with some production magic, you'll see that the Lighthouse has been painted here, and we're just going to go ahead and tie on the parachute to finish it off. We took this rocket with us to the real Bodie Island Lighthouse, and I think it's a pretty good resemblance there. So congratulations to our art department.
All right, Lighthouse. Pad number 5, Bodie's Island, still on a D12. You ready? Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go.
It's a little loud labs.